All right, let's dive right into this explainer and put you straight into the high-stakes environment of a Bombardier Q400 cockpit to unpack a really critical crew resource management mandate. Today, we're looking at a vital safety circular that details the exact procedures for a go-around following an unstabilized approach. It's all about overcoming basic human hesitation when literally every second counts.
Consider this your pre-flight briefing. We're going to cover the cockpit hesitancy problem, fixation and subtle incapacitation, the 1 and 2 call rules, conflict and safe cognizance, 3 steps to intervention, and finally, the training mandate. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. The cockpit hesitancy problem.
Okay, picture this. You're sitting in the right seat of a Bombardier Q400 on final approach. You're the pilot monitoring. The runway is right there, but things are getting a bit shaky. The approach is becoming unstabilized. The pilot flying? They aren't correcting it. You absolutely know something is fundamentally wrong here. But what's actually stopping you from doing something about it?
Well, that is exactly the crux of the problem. Despite a ton of guidelines already being out there, there's this chilling observation. First officers, the ones acting as the pilot monitoring, still show a serious, ongoing hesitancy. They're super reluctant to just give a clear-cut go-around call. And honestly, they're even more hesitant to physically grab those controls when a safe landing absolutely demands it.
Moving on to Section 2, Fixation and Subtle Incapacitation.
So why does this happen? Look, when we hear the word incapacitation, we usually picture someone just passing out, right? But subtle incapacitation is way more insidious than that. The pilot flying isn't unconscious at all. Instead, they get so incredibly absorbed in a specific maneuver that they literally just stop responding to outside stimuli. They are entirely fixated. And because of that, they're functionally incapacitated.
And man, this creates a really devastating cause and effect loop. History and past incidents prove that this exact fixation and subtle incapacitation directly lead to unstabilized approaches. And we all know what those lead to: eventful landings or, worst-case scenario, outright accidents. This is exactly why solid crew resource management, things like progressive standard callouts, and ultimately taking over the controls is an absolute non-negotiable necessity.
Section 3. The 1 and 2 call rules. Now, you obviously can't just guess if the captain next to you is fixated. You have to test them. And according to the operations manual, the pilot monitoring actually has a highly specific tool for this. It's brilliant. First, the 1 call rule. This acts as your initial stimulus check. If you get absolutely zero reaction, you escalate straight to the 2 call rule. These are structured, verbal tests designed for one purpose: to definitively identify a condition of no response. So what does a pass look like here? Well, it's pretty simple. If the pilot flying responds to these call stimuli with the expected corrective action, meaning, their hands and feet actually do what they're supposed to do to fix the plane's path, then we're good. The situation is considered satisfactory, they're alert, and the flight can proceed safely.
All right. Section 4, Conflict and Safe Cognizance.
The mandate on this is incredibly strict. Listen to this. Even if the pilot flying thinks everything is perfectly fine, they must take cognizance of the input coming from the pilot monitoring, period. If the pilot flying hasn't pre-briefed the PM for some kind of non-standard procedure, they have no choice but to abandon the approach and execute a missed approach. But, and this is a big but, the actual physical takeover of the controls by the PM is reserved strictly for cases of total or subtle incapacitation.
The text actually explicitly warns against fighting over the yoke. It states that a situation of conflict in the cockpit is most undesirable for flight safety and would lead to a hazardous situation that needs to be avoided in all circumstances. So, fighting for control? Huge red flag. That's exactly why the protocol for taking over is so heavily structured. It's designed to completely remove that conflict and replace it with a crystal clear, absolute mandate.
Which brings us to Section 5, 3 steps to intervention. Okay, here is the absolute climax of our Q400 scenario. What do you actually do when flight safety continues to be threatened? To memorize this effortlessly, I want you to use a really simple trick, the AGM rule. A stands for approach. Your first call is simply approach not stabilized. Now, if there's no response, you hit G for go around. You loudly say, go around, captain. Still nothing? Execute M for my controls. You loudly announce, my controls, captain. Approach. Go around, my controls. AGM. Easy to remember, right?
Executing that final M
My controls require some highly specific simultaneous actions to actually pull that Bombardier Q400 out of the danger zone safely. The moment you loudly announce "My controls, Captain," you, the pilot monitoring who is now acting as the pilot flying, must immediately transmit go-around to air traffic control. And instantly, you have to initiate the safe go-around procedure utilizing all available automation. It's an all-at-once response.
Section 6. The Training Mandate. These guidelines leave absolutely zero room for ambiguity. But, a circular is basically just a piece of paper unless it becomes muscle memory. So trainers are explicitly mandated to rigorously train and check all pilots on these exact progressive steps. And this isn't just some one-off lecture in a classroom. Oh no. It's actively checked in simulator sessions during line training and on real-world line checks. Every single pilot has to prove they have the ability to break that hesitancy.
So we've seen how the AGM rule, approach, go around, my controls, is specifically designed to override our very natural, deeply ingrained psychological hesitancy to challenge authority, literally saving lives in a Q400. It's a real game changer. But it leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought to end on. If mastering this kind of structured intervention can prevent a disaster at 500 feet in the air, where else in our own lives or maybe our own workplaces could overcoming the fear of speaking up completely save the day? Something to think about. Until next time, keep analyzing and keep learning.